Hey guys, I just want to do a quick video for those that are just now getting their very first ball python and a quick, simple way to set it up. There are many ways to set up a ball python. There are many right ways and there are many wrong ways. And I'm going to show the way that we recommend whenever you buy a hatchling ball python from us. This is some of the stuff you're going to need. You're going to need a decent sized tank. You're also going to need heat tape. I have a couple different types here and I'll explain that. You're going to need a thermostat. You're going to need some sort of a watering dish, and you're going to need 2 hides. Okay, you're also going to need some kind of substrate. I like to use cocoa. Some people use aspen. The reason why I like to use cocoa is because you can spray it down with water and it'll hold humidity a little bit better, and aspen sometimes seems to mold out sometimes when you use that. Now if you notice, you do not see any type of heat lights or any type of lighting at all on here. We do not recommend using lighting or heat lamps for your ball pythons, because what it does is it can dehydrate them and cause them to have bad sheds and things like that. So the best way to heat them up would be a heat pad like this one right here. Now there are several different types of heat pads you can get. You can get one, I think this is made by Fluker. It's used, but it's just what I had laying around. This doesn't have any like sticky tape or anything like that. There's also Zoomed that you can get, which actually you can peel the back and it's actually like a sticker, and you just stick it to the bottom. Even though it has a sticker on the back, I always recommend retaping it around the edges with this tape here, which is actually it's for air conditioning duct. You can find it at any Lowe's or Home Depot. It's basically aluminum tape. I think it's aluminum tape. But what happens is, like when it gets heated or anything like that, it won't take the stickiness away. Like if you use like duct tape or something like that, I think it probably will dry it out. So it's always recommended to use this aluminum tape or foil tape. All right, so your tank. Now this tank here is probably a really nice size for a hatchling ball python. And if you notice, I'm using the word hatchling, and I'll explain that in a minute. And the reason why I like this tank here is because it is a front opening tank. Even though you can get in through the top, I recommend, if you have to feed or clean, to have something that opens in the front. Because if it doesn't open in the front and you're reaching in through the top, sometimes it can stress out the animal. This way it can kind of see you come in, and you can earn its trust a little better that way. And also what I like about this tank is it has like a pretty decent thickness of screen on top. But if you're having issues holding humidity, depending on the state that you live in or the country, this tank has these little plastic inserts that will sit right on top of where the screen is, and it'll actually hold the humidity in. Now, it only covers this section here and this here. It doesn't cover these little sections here, but it definitely helps with humidity if you're having issues trying to hold the humidity. This tank is actually, this is the sticker on there, and that's the size of it. So it's made by Zilla. It's the Zilla difference, I guess, is the what do they call it? The style or whatever of the tank.
Yeah.
So it's a 20 long, 30 inches long. It's called a 20 long tank. It's 30 inches by 12 inches by 16 inches, so it's 16 inches high. You don't necessarily need 16 inches tall. You can get away with a 12-inch tall for a ball python. That's just what this tank happens to be. I'm actually using this for something else, but it's actually a decent size, or a nice size for a hatchling ball python. The reason why I'm saying hatchling ball python is, if you look behind me, you see all these racks. If you go to a show and you happen to buy like a proven breeder or an adult ball python, most likely if you're buying it from a breeder, they most likely kept it in tubs like this. So buying an adult ball python from a show that was raised up in the tub will most likely be okay in a tank like this. However, it might take a little longer to get them to start eating and stuff, because it's probably lived its whole life in a tub like this instead of a tank. Hatchlings, or they're not used to being in a tub their whole life, so it's a little easier to take care of that. All right, so we got through that part. So now I'm going to go ahead and show you how I like to set up my tank. Oh yeah, one more thing is this tank actually has a styrofoam background. Not all of them are going to have that background. I recommend putting something in the back and maybe even on the sides, just because, like I was saying about the tubs, you can see they're totally enclosed. And when you enclose the back and the sides of the tank, it'll make them feel a little more secure, and they should thrive a little bit better. That's only if you're having issues with, getting on food or anything. So, all right, so I am actually going to put this heat pad on real quick. I believe this is a Fluker. It's used, but there are many different types you can get. So what I recommend is to use this aluminum tape or foil tape. I'm going to do it like this. And you want to get it taped in pretty good. You can actually go a little bit smaller on this pad here for this size tank. I would say maybe you want to do 1/3 of the tank with the heat pad. So this pad is actually a little large, but I don't have another heat panel that's smaller where I can show you, but you get the idea anyways. Okay, so you're basically just going to tape the heat panel down. There's really not a whole lot of room on the sides for tape. It's going to stay on there pretty well though. And then thermostats. There are several different types of thermostats you can get. This is a Herpstat, which is made by Spider Robotics, which is like a professional series type of thermostat. And this is a Vivarium Electronics, which is another professional style thermostat. This is actually the ones that I use on my racks here, as you can see. For just a tank like this, you don't have to spend the money to get something like this. I would recommend it if you can. I believe the 100 series of this thermostat, which is this one here, I want to say it's around a little under $100. All right, so here's another thermostat which you can actually use for just a tank, because it's just going to be one heat pad that it's controlling. This is made by Zoomed. Sorry, my eyes are old. And it's digital, and this one's used too as well, so it looks a little banged up, but it still works. And this is the one we're actually going to use, and I want to show you how to set it up. Okay, so the biggest mistake that a lot of people do is they think that the thermostat probe needs to be on the inside of the tank, which it does not. It should be on the outside of the tank, taped up against the heat panel. If it's on the inside of the tank and for some reason the animal moves around and knocks the probe loose, then it's going to get a false reading on how hot the tank is, and it's going to overheat the panel and possibly injure your animal. So, and what you want to do with the heat probe is I like to tape like half of the probe and leave half of it open. I don't know why I do that. It's just how somebody taught me how to do it, so I just always took their recommendation and do it like that. And if you notice, this tank has a little notch right here, which is pretty nice because you can tuck your wires in there so it's not rocking or anything like that. Which I'm just going to tape it there just to hold it in place. Just something just like this. And I'm just roughly taping this. I mean, you can actually cut it nice clean lines and make it perfect and all that. All right, one other thing that I failed to mention is actually when you buy the Zoomed, I'm not sure if this one comes with it or not, but it comes with these little, they're like little rubber feet. And what you want to do with that is you want to stick it on the corner of the tank just to kind of lift it up a little bit so there's a little bit of airflow. Because if you have this sitting directly on the table and there's no waiting for the heat to escape underneath, it could get overheated or whatever. And if you're putting it like on the floor for some reason and there's carpet, I would definitely have some kind of a stand to lift it up off of the carpet a little bit. You just don't want any type of fire hazards or anything like that. Even though it's hooked up to a thermostat that's going to control the heat and all that, you know, sometimes things fail and you just don't want to take any chances like that. All right, so now this is the wire for the heat panel. This is the probe wire that's going to the thermostat. So if you notice, there's like a little receptacle plug in right here. What you're going to do is you're going to plug the heat panel into the thermostat, and then the thermostat actually gets plugged into the wall. Okay, so I set this thermostat for 90 degrees. That's typically where you want the panel to be, your hot spot. It can be anywhere between 85 and 90 degrees. Sometimes when it's in a tank and you got bedding and stuff in there, you may have to set the thermostat a little bit higher to reach that. As you can see this number right now, the heat panel is at 85 and it'll keep raising up until it hits the 90 degree temperature. And as soon as it does that, it'll stop and hold the temperature at that position. Okay, so we have the thermostat all hooked up. It's at 88 degrees and it's going to continue to slowly rise till it reaches the 90. One of the things, if you can buy these little heat guns at Home Depot, Lowe's, I believe Tractor Supply, I believe Harbor Freight. Amazon, you can get them from Amazon. We have a really nice one. It's made by Milwaukee. I believe we ordered this off of Amazon. This particular one, I want to say was like $80 or something like that, but I've seen them, $25, $30.
On Amazon, they're called infrared temperature guns.
Okay. All right, so you just want to check, and you see right now it says 84.9. That's because it's going through the tank and everything. You want to keep checking this every now and then. The actual pad, according to the thermostat, is 90, but it's got to heat the glass up a little bit. So I'll check it again a little bit later. And then also when we add substrate. And then also when we add substrate to it, it's going to have a little bit of a floor there too. Now, you probably don't need to check the top of the substrate because most likely the snake's going to wiggle down to where the surface is anyways. So I would mainly just make sure the surface is good. The surface meaning the bottom of the enclosure or the tank. All right, so now we're at the point where we're going to add our substrate. I recommend using cocoa. Some people like to use newspaper, paper towels, aspen. I recommend cocoa mainly because it will, like I was saying earlier, it'll hold the humidity a little better if you need to add humidity to your tank. When you're getting your cocoa, make sure you get, the cocoa chips or the cocoa blocks. Don't get the stuff with the little fine pieces of sand and stuff like that in there, because what could happen is as it's eating, it can get stuck in their heat pits, or if it's eating a rodent or something, some of that can be on the rodent and they can ingest it. So I will show you the size that I use, and the stuff that I'm actually using here is ReptiChip, but there's several different brands that you can get. So just make sure you don't get the sandy or dirty or the really fine stuff. Okay, so the ReptiChip, this is a different brand. This is actually
This is
called the Chipper. This is a little chunkier from what I like on my hatchlings, but they do have another, I think they have a black label or something like that where it's actually a little more finer like this. This particular stuff I'm using here is ReptiChip. Okay. So you want to add your cocoa in there. Just a thin layer. All right, so that's like a perfect amount. You want to be able to cover the glass on the bottom. It could be a little thicker. It could be, I wouldn't go much thinner than that. So you want the heat side to be on one side, and then that way there's a cold side on the other. That way they can have a heat gradient, so they can go back and forth, whether they're wanting to seek the heat or, cool down a little bit. I would recommend your water bowl and 2 hides. You can do just 1 hide, but I would say 2 hides in the beginning. I would put one over top of where the heat source is, and then one over in the cold side, just like that. And then your water bowl, you do not want it over where the heat source is because you do not want to warm up the water, you know, so I would put it somewhere in the middle or something like that. Okay, so that there is basically, you know, besides adding the water to it, is basically the perfect setup for a ball python. You don't want to put too much stuff in there, branches and all that stuff, because when it comes to time to clean, you're going to have to remove all that stuff, and, you know, it takes a little more time. You just kind of want to keep it simple. I think I said in the beginning of this video, I was talking about the sides, covering the sides up with something. Now you can use, what's that paper? That school
Construction.
paper? Okay, so you can use something as simple as like construction paper, you know. You can even use this stuff. I use this in one of my green tree tanks. It's actually a plastic dip spray, and you're going to do the outside. You're not going to do the inside. If you use something like this, it's kind of like a plastic spray paint, I guess. You want to, if you do this, you want it to air out for at least a week before putting an animal in. But you want to make sure you tape everything off really nice, and then spray a light coat on it on both sides, and then, you know, go back and hit it a second time and third if you need it. Don't need it. You don't necessarily need to use this, but if you're trying to have something that looks nice and clean instead of just paper taped to the side, I would say go with this way. So now the temperature finally did reach 90 degrees, and I'm going to show you a little something here. I'm going to move the substrate out because, like I said, when the snake's in there, they're going to move around a little bit, and we're going to see what this is reading. Okay, right now it's reading just at 82, 81 degrees.
Probably because we had the door open for so long.
Okay, so it may be reading that. What you want to do is you want to come back probably in an hour and make sure the doors are shut on this, and then check that again. And if it's still not to like 85 or 90, then you may need to adjust this thermostat up a little higher. You want to make sure that hot spot is around between 85 and 90 degrees. And that's it. That's your perfect ball python setup, and he is going to be a happy ball python. Well, I appreciate you guys watching. Be sure to share and subscribe and hit the notification bell if you can. I would appreciate that. Hopefully this helps everybody out on these questions. We do a lot of shows, like a lot of local shows, and I get a lot of questions from new ball python owners on how to set up a tank. So I figured I'd do this video, and I could just shoot them over to the video, and it kind of gives them like a hands-on, you know, tutorial on that. So I appreciate you guys watching, and see you on the next one.